Right. Great pleasure in introducing our man, me and Albert. So we're introducing me. So over to you, Graham. Thank you very much. A big hand for Graham.
2022 is the 70th anniversary of my first visit to Blackpool. Long time ago, 70 years, but there are certain things that stick in my mind from that trip. It must have happened on a Friday, because on the train, on the way to Blackpool, it became dark very, very quickly. So I presume it must have been the Friday after school when we set off. And in those days, obviously it was a steam train. The ones with the individual compartments and the long carriage. And at either end, the doors out onto the platform and the toilet. And of course, during the journey, I wanted to go down to the toilet. No, I've pressed it wrong one. There we go. Right. When I went down the other end, there was a gentleman there, stood smoking, and he had the window open. And if you remember, in those days, the window was open with a leather strap. You pull the strap and the window came up, and to lower it down, you pressed the strap onto a brass stud. And with it being pitch black, the thing was whizzing past the window, was in total darkness, and the gentleman was blowing his smoke out of the window. And I waited till it went, and I tried to pick up courage to put my head out of the window. But I was rather frightened that I would hit a lamppost or a signal post or a tree, and I kept doing this sort of thing, looking out, till eventually I managed to stick my head right up. Total blackness, no street lights in those days. And as it happened, the train was going round the left-hand corner. And the sight that I saw stuck with me ever since. The stoker, the fireman, had the fire open, and the whole of the cabin was lit up, and there he was shoving the coal into the fire. And the smoke and the steam were hurtling back over the carriages. That's an image that's always stuck with me. When we got to Blackpool, straight to the bed and breakfast, and then the next day we set off and had a journey on the tram towards Fleetwood for about a mile. Then we got off and walked back into the tower complex. Now I'm sure everyone's been into the tower. It isn't just the tower, there's lots and lots of other things inside the building. The first thing we came to was the ballroom, now famous for the dancing programme. We came somehow up here and walked our way around and down and through. And then we had a trip up the tower. Oh, sorry. First, before we went up the tower, we walked into the menagerie. Now this is a 1930s picture of the menagerie, and I can tell you it was nothing like that. It was the coldest, miserablest place I'd been in. No ferns, I can't remember the seats. All I can remember was it was extremely cold. Young lad, about 5 years old, short trousers in those days. We didn't wear long trousers till we were in his teens. This is what it was more like. And the animals locked up in a very small area, laying out on concrete. And this is where I suspect that George Edgar stood when he got the inspiration for Albert and the Lion. And this is where I would have my first contact, although all those years ago I didn't realise that I had a contact with this George. When I was stood there, I was actually shivering, a bit like I am now with nerves. Anyway, I mentioned it to my mother that I was freezing and I was cold. And she opened her handbag and took out a green headscarf and wrapped it around my head. Well, if that wasn't embarrassing enough, the gentleman that was stood at the back of me led down to his little daughter and said, "Go to stand by that little girl there." Oh. Right. George married Edgar, the man we're interested in. He played a lot of theatre games, but he gained fame with Albert and the Lion, made famous by Stanley Holloway. Right. This is Wallace. Now, if you was like me and you would put two and two together and think that Wallace Edgar named Albert and named the lion Wallace from his half brother, you would be wrong, just like I was, because this was the first African lion born in the UK in captivity. It was born in Edinburgh, and it is said that it was named after William Wallace. It's now in the Saffron Walden Museum. Okay. There's a famous seaside place called Blackpool. It's noted for fresh air and fun. And Mr. and Mrs. Ramsbottom went there with young Albert, their son. A grand little lad was young Albert, all dressed in his best, quite a swell, with a stick, with an horse's head handle, the finest that Wallace could sell. Now, they didn't think much at Thosham, because waves were all fiddling and small. There were no shipwrecks, nobody drowned, in fact, no to laugh at all. So seeking further amusement, they paid and went into the zoo, where there's lions and tigers and camels, old ale and sandwiches too. There was this great big lion called Wallace, whose face was all covered in scars. And he lay in a somnolent posture, with side of his face against bars. Now, young Albert, he'd heard about lions, how they were all ferocious and wild. And to see one lion so peaceful, it just didn't seem right to the child. So up to the brave young fellow, not showing a morsel of fear, he took his stick, with its horse's handle, and poked it in Wallace's ear. I could tell the lion didn't like it, because he gave one big roll, and he pulled Albert into cage with him, and swallowed little lad whole. Now, father, he'd witnessed the occurrence. He didn't know what to do next. He turned round to mother and says, "Young lion's just taking me out, Albert." And mother says, "Well, I'm next." And then Mr. and Mrs. Ramsbottom, quite rightly when all said and done, complained to animal keeper that young lion had just taken their son. The keeper, he were quite nice about it. He said, "What a nasty mishap. Are they sure it's your lad, is it?" And father says, "I'm sure. There's his cap." The manager had to be sent for. When he came, he says, "What's to do?" And father says, "Young Lion's just taking me out, Albert." And him in his Sunday clothes too. And mother says, right, young fella. I think it's a shame and a sin for young Lion to go and eat Albert and have to be paid to come in. And mother, she turned a bit awkward when she thought where young Albert had gone, saying, somebody has got to be summoned. So that was decided upon. So off they all went to the police station in front of magistrates, Jack, and told him what happened to young Albert, and proved it by showing his cap. The magistrate gave his opinion that he thought no one was really to blame, and he hoped that the round bottoms would have further sons to their name. That ma turned pretty awkward. "Well, thank you kindly, sir," said she. "What, spend all our life raising bairns to feed bloody lions? Not me." After we'd been in the menagerie and up the tower, we actually went to the Blackpool Tower Circus. And a lot of the animals that was kept in the menagerie were trained to perform in the ring. Hares, tigers, lions, leopards. And after the dangerous animals and the cage was taken away, the performing elephants. Excuse me, that's quite dry. And quite often, the elephants were taken to fairs and fêtes, and the keeper used to take them down onto the beach and let them play in the sea. When Joe Dove took his elephants out on the road, he made them on bit drunk to tail the elephant walking ahead to stop them from doing the bunk. They were 15 in all, and it was a bit of a job to get them all hooked up in a row. But when they were fixed, Joe knew they'd hang on, because an elephant never lets go. They were walking one Sunday from Blackpool to Crewe. They set off at dawn that day, and Joe followed on with a bag full of buns, in case they got hungry on the way. They were walking along at a cracking good pace, over through, and valley, and plain. And poor little Aggie, the one at the back, a drum fairly ached to the strain. They came to this place where a railway crossed the road, an ungated crossing it were. And Joe wanted to know that the express train would due at the same time as they got there. They were halfway across when Joe saw the express come hurtling along up the track. He tried to stop through, but it did no good, because an elephant never turns back. He saw straight away something had to be done, because the train looked like spoiling his troop. So he ran on ahead and he waggled buns to show them they'd best hurry up. When the elephants saw buns, they started to run, and soon got across at this gate, except for poor little Aggie, the one at the back. She was just 1 second too late. As train hurtled past, it caught little Aggie's rear end fair and square. She bounced off the buffers with head over heels, and lay with the legs in the air. Joe thought she was dead where that she lay, on her back, with her head on mine. He knelt down beside her, put his ear on her chest, and asked her to say 99. She wiggled her tail and waddled her trunk to show him she was still alive. She hadn't the strength to say 99. She just managed a week, 85. When the engine driver got down from his cab, Joe says, "Bloody hell! Look at what a mess!" There's no need to make all this fuss. I've never caught one as I've seen. Joe says, "That's right. But they all held on tight and put back end off to the 14. Joe though still watches Elephant Troop. He hadn't patched up at vets. And little Aggie won't walk at the back anymore. Because an elephant never forgets.
Original.
Back to the circus. Obviously, the most popular of the acts was the clowns. And I'm sure a lot of you here know who that is.
Charlie Caroli.
Charlie Caroli. Charlie Caroli emigrated from Italy. He came from a circus family, and in 1939 they went from Italy to do a show in Munich. And in the audience was Adolf Hitler. And he was so taken up with the clowns that when he met Charlie Caroli after the performance, he gave him his watch, or gave him a watch, for the enjoyment that he got from the show. After Munich, they moved to Blackpool, where Charlie Caroli stayed for over 40 years. The Blackpool Tower Circus set a world record for 40 years of continuous performances until it was stopped because of the COVID pandemic. You might have heard about young Albert Ramsbottom in Zoo in Blackpool one year. He took a stick with an horse's head handle and get lion and poke its ear. The name of lion was Wallace. The poke its ear made him wild. And before I could say much, he'd up and he swallowed child. He was sorry the minute he'd done it. With Bairns he'd always been chums. Besides, he hadn't a tooth in his nose, so he couldn't chew Albert on gums. He could feel lad moving inside him as he lay on his bed of dry ferns. And it could have been little lad's birthday, because he wished him many happy returns. The young Albert, he kicked and he struggled, till Wallace rose feeling bad, and thought it was time as he started to make a comeback from that. So with his head down over in corner, on front paws, he started to walk, and he coughed, and he sneezed, and he gargled, till Albert shot out. Like a cork. Mouth's dry. Now Wallace felt better directly. His figure returned back to lean. There was no difference at all with young Albert, except his hands and his face were clean. Meanwhile, Mr. and Mrs. Ramsbottom returned home feeling low. And Mother says, "I feel right down in my light." And Father says, "Aye, I bet Albert does do." She says, "It just goes to show, the future is never revealed. If I'd known we were going to lose Albert, I'd have had his boots sold." And Father says, "What can't be mended has to be endured. At least there's a silver lining. We did have Albert insured." A knock came on door at that very minute. These words that Father did speak. It was a young man from Prudential. come to collect is twopence per person per week. When Father saw who'd been knocking, he laughed and he laughed out, so young man from Prudential says, "What's there to laugh at?" And Father says, "I'll laugh and all when you know." When young man had heard all the details about from his pocketing true, and he paid it with interest and bonus, £9, 4 shillings in two. Just as Father was reaching for the brass, a face at the window there see. And Mother says, "Hey up, see there, it's your Albert." And Father says, "Ah, it would be." Albert ran in all excited. His story he started to give. And Father says, "I'll never trust lines ever again, not as long as I live." Just as young man from Prudential was reaching for it to pick up the money, he began. Father says, "Hang on, hold the horses. Don't be in such a hurry, young man." He picked up a shilling. He turned around and talked and says, "See there, pop off back to the zoo. Here's the stick with its horses and handles. Go see what tigers can do." I'd like to finish off with a favourite. Unfortunately, it's got nothing to do with Albert or Wallace Edgar. I'd just like to set the scene, take you back to the time when we had stagecoaches. If you had to travel a long distance, you would end up at staging post, the hotel where they change the horses. But when the automobiles came along, these coaching houses lost a lot of trade. So they, like nowadays, they have to diversify. I'll tell you a tale of an old Yorkshire pub that reckoned its son right up to date. It had the word garage painted over its stable door and a petrol pump outside the gate. George and Dragon were the name of the pub, and it stood up on moor, wild and bleak. And nobody ever seemed to pass by, except carrier's truck once a week. That carrier's truck was a sturdy old Ford. Its driver was known as Old Joe. And although he passed every week, he never been in. Its name he didn't even know. One cold winter's night, about 1:45, Joe was driving home over the moor. When he get up to the pub, his engine stopped dead. Something he'd never done before. They were 8 miles from home, and it was starting to snow, and he thought he'd be stuck there for the night. And then he saw a wet garage over his stable door, and he laughed and he says to his son, "Eve, I go, I think we're all right." He walked up to the pub, and he hammered on the door, till a voice above cried, "Hello!" It was publican's wife. She says, "What does the want?" "I've run out of petrol," says Joe. "Who is it?" she says. "It's old Carrier Joe." "Oh, it's thee, is it?" she replied. "Thou've been coming past here nigh on 10 years, and there's near one set foot inside. What time does they call this to come knocking for the club? That can bugger off with the truck. Go get the petrol where they buys the beer. They'll never come here because they're stuck." "I will, if they sell me some fuel," said Joe. "I can't get started without." "I'm willing to pay." She says, "Go to hell. I'll get fuel here for now." On saying these words, she poked her head in and slammed window pane to in his face. Joe took a step back and, on looking about, he first sees name of this place. He picks up some pebbles from out the road, he chucks them up at window pane. And after a minute, window opened up and the old lass took her head out again. What does they want? Not these, says Joe, but this treatment has fair raised his gorge. I see George and Brannan's neighbour, this pub. Well, I'd like a few words with George.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
Maybe the joke,
Oh.
Too late. I've only ever tried to recite one of these, just once. And every time I did it, I had a brain freeze. I knew I wouldn't get through 5 of them without forgetting something.